Okay, so this video is going to be about my experiences with the LSD analogues 1P-LSD and ALD-52. Now, I have a little bit more experience with 1P-LSD. With ALD-52, I've only done it about, I think, 3 times, but I have at least a dozen experiences with 1P-LSD. So I'm going to start with 1P-LSD. So I first started using 1P-LSD in 2017. I had a few regular LSD 25 trips under my belt, and I was looking for a way to get more because I didn't have a way to get more LSD 25, and I actually saw a video on YouTube from Psych Substance. He put out a video about legal acid, and I was very intrigued, and I did a little research and I obtained some 1P-LSD for myself. Now, I didn't know what to expect. Most people say that it's nearly identical to LSD. There are even some theories that it's a prodrug to LSD, but I don't think that that's been proven or if that's correct at all. Okay, so I'm going to talk about my experiences in general and what I think the main differences are between these substances and, your standard LSD 25. So starting with dosage, I'd say for the most part, 1P-LSD tabs, they seem stronger than your standard LSD tabs. But most likely this is due to the fact that your regular LSD tabs that you'd get might be, or probably are, underdosed, more in like the 60 to 70 microgram range. I mean, now there's a chance that you don't have underdosed LSD. You might even, I'm sure there's hits out there that have, 100, 200, whatever. But I think for the most part, comparing your standard hit of LSD, like just your average one, to one hit of 1P-LSD, I think one hit of 1P-LSD is stronger. But like I said, I think it's due to underdosing. I guess there's evidence to suggest, at least theoretical evidence to suggest, that you would need more 1P-LSD than regular LSD 25. But I think that goes along with the prodrug theory. I'm not really going to get into that. I'm going to focus on the subjective effects of these substances. So, like I said, dosage, 1P-LSD, I would be careful with it because it can feel a lot stronger than your regular dosed tabs. Now let's move on to the Comeup. For 1P-LSD, I tend to find the Comeup to be faster and stronger than regular LSD. And this is pretty consistently. I'm not just taking one trip's experience and saying that's what it's like, because I think the first few times I did 1P-LSD, I couldn't tell that much of a difference between it and regular LSD, but after doing it for multiple times, I did start to notice some patterns and some things that are different. So in the Comeup, I do think it hits harder. I think it might make you a little bit more anxious. Again, these are my subjective experiences, but there's other people who have done it with me who feel the same thing, that it hits harder, that the Comeup is much more accelerated. And I think that's honestly the main difference, at least the main difference that has been very consistent across trips. So the 1P-LSD Comeup is faster, stronger. You might be a little bit more anxious during it. Now, as for the peak, I think you reach the peak sooner, and I think that goes off of the Comeup being a little bit faster, which is actually contrary to what you might theoretically think if we're going with like the prodrug idea. However, I'm really sure on this that I think 1P-LSD comes on faster and stronger. Honestly, everything else I say from here is much more subjective. But this thing, I really think there is something there. So let me know if anybody's done 1P-LSD and LSD and you've done them a significant amount of times. Do you notice a difference in the Comeup? I would like to know. Anyway, so let's get into the rest of the experience. The peak, I think, now it obviously depends on the trip, it depends on set and setting, it depends on dosage, but I have found, I think, the trips to be a bit more colorful visually. I think the visuals can come on stronger during the peak, but I also think after the peak the visuals are a little bit more diminished than regular LSD. So I don't know, I think it might have something to do with the way the body is metabolizing it, that it's kind of, you know, it's happening quicker, and then it's fading off quicker, because that's another thing. So if we're talking about duration of trip, I think I have noticed that 1P-LSD is a little bit shorter in duration than regular LSD. Regular LSD, I think a standard 12 hours is what you can expect. With 1P, at least after doing it enough times and just like a regular dose, you know, nothing like really high dose range, I've usually felt like I've come down mostly after 10. So I think there's a little bit shorter in duration. But again, it's very subjective. I don't necessarily have the scientific evidence to back up those claims. Anyway, but for the most part, I do think 1P-LSD and LSD-25 are very, very similar. They're nearly identical. I think for most people who take these drugs, if you don't have much experience with one or the other, you might not be able to tell a difference. I think that there's actually more differences to be found in different individual trips that are due to just like the set and setting and the dosage. I think there's more differences due to those factors than actual differences in the substances, but I do think that there are a few minor differences. Anyway, that's probably all I have for the 1P-LSD, so let's move on to ALD-52. Now, this substance was also rumored to be the orange sunshine acid of the 60s. That rumor is not true, but I think it was kind of a fun thing. It kind of did attract me to the substance, and I really did want to look into it to see if there was any truth to that. I heard things about ALD-52 that it was, you know, more gentle in the Comeup, which I was really looking forward to after my experiences with 1P-LSD, just because the 1P-LSD Comeup felt like it was a little bit more jittery and kind of makes you feel more anxious. The ALD was supposed to be smoother and make you have less anxiety. So I will say that is true. I think the Comeup is much smoother. It does not hit as hard. It feels like a slower, or maybe not necessarily slower, but just a smoother Comeup, and I do think you feel less anxiety in the Comeup. Now, for the visuals of the experience, the visuals are different, and I don't think I have enough trips of this substance under my belt to exactly describe how, but they are different, and I think the hues of the colors are also different. I think 1P-LSD and LSD, the hues of the colors are pretty similar, even if there is a little bit difference in the patterns and the geometry of the visuals. ALD-52 I definitely think has a different hue pattern. And the visuals are just different in a way that I can't quite describe. I would like to do more exploration with it, but then again, I kind of want to take that back because I'm going to say it now. I haven't really enjoyed my experiences on ALD-52, especially when compared to LSD-25 and 1P-LSD. I much prefer those ones. ALD-52 feels weird. Like, it feels like something's off, and maybe that's just in my head. Maybe it's just I can tell that it feels slightly different than LSD, and so I'm just like, kind of, it's a psychosomatic thing, and I'm like, oh, this feels weird. But it kind of felt weird in like a creepy way that I didn't really like, and after doing it about 2 or 3 times, I was pretty much done with it, and I gave the rest of what I had left away to a friend. So yeah, I had these experiences in like 2017, 2018, maybe a little bit of 2019, but those are my experiences with those 2 LSD analogs. 1P-LSD is by far my favorite of the 2. I think it's really close to LSD. ALD-52 is definitely a little bit more different from regular LSD-25. So if you want the substance that's closer to actual LSD, I would go with 1P. If you want something that's a little bit different, that might feel smoother, ALD-52 is a good choice. Like I said, it made me feel really weird, but that's just, it's probably in my head, you know? I don't know. That's it for this video. Bye.